Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's News Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangrove of South Florida. And today's date is Tuesday, February 5th, 2019. So let us begin. Woo, hey friends, thank you for tuning in. Yeah, I'm just hanging out right now in my camper. Early Tuesday morning to be exact. Went to see Seven Dust. It was very consistent. Never a dull moment with this band. And LeJean had like a couple good folks. Like one of his good friends died. Got a text and did a song dedicated to him and all the folks out there that lost a loved one. Of course, my father would have been 79 today. So may his soul be forever free. I always thank him every day. Without him, I wouldn't have existed. So, another thing, too, past weekend, went to see Whiskey on Beer. It was a low documentary, and two of the gentlemen, I don't have the name at the top of my head, unfortunately, right now, but they were, got involved. Great documentary. And never seen the band live. And when they found out about Bobby Load, in due time, and they just heard some of the music, they just contacted the drummer Fausto and said, hey, we want to do a movie about you guys. They came down, did the, budget, had a real limited budget. And I got to say one thing, they winged it well. A lot of good folks did interviews about Bobby Load, some of the crazy stories he did, or Bobby Johnson. And never, like I said, I have to agree, he's never a stupid person. Even though I may call him a knucklehead, I never said he was a bad man. He was very creative, and his brother talked about him as a child, and it's very, I'll say, very disheartening to hear these things. And it was supposed to be in the Fort Lauderdale, hopefully the upcoming film festivals. Whiskey on Beer, folks, check it out. I gotta say, it was amazing, and it felt good because even though him and Jeff Toosey, okay, the guitar player for Load too, they both passed, but they never failed. It was successful, created a great buzz, and the documentaries was a testament about the band. So kudos to all those folks that got interviewed. And it's amazing that it's good that a lot of them are still alive. Of course, I won't say too much, but when you have a chance, just look it up. You won't be disappointed. And very, talking of appreciation. Even with Jeff Toosey, I knew both of them in the local music scene. We all grew up together. There are other guys from Load as well. So, it touched our hearts. They had a pre-party, and I had to go 2 nights at the Savor Cinema, which is Vanette Carroll Theater in downtown Fort Lauderdale. And I gotta say, it was, like I said, it was still talking about today, and I digress. Forgive me on this, friends, but definitely please check it out. Whiskey on Beer, the Load documentary. All right. Sometimes when I post stuff on Facebook, when it's geopolitical, don't matter, someone's going to find it, think it's all out of hatred. I won't get too much in detail or say anyone's name and with their discretion, but they're good folks. A lot of things are happening, and mainly about Venezuela, what's been going on. And the article itself is about how the banksters may want to control it. Possible invasion or the United States getting involved. And to be very frank, I'm against foreign entanglements, imperialism. If this happens with Maduro, his successor can, hopefully I'll be mistaken, can be a one tyrannical individual too. I'm not a fan of Maduro in general. There's some areas I'm not fond with, even with Chavez. However, you have to look at the whole cloak and dagger ordeal during that nation's oppression. Yes, a lot of stuff's happening, and people show me videos of people going to the refugees going to Colombia, and I'm not going to argue about that at all. Central banking, poor management, sanctions, all in that same mix. But the individual assumed, we got to get rid of them. The West has to get involved, and I've heard this all before. Happened in Libya, Iran, and all that. It could blow back in our faces with CIA. So that's why the people in Venezuela have to make that decision. One thing I find disturbing, of course, is Article 324 of their Venezuelan Constitution, which all firearms, or what's called weapons of war, belongs to the state. I'm not calling Murado a war criminal, because I don't know how accurate it is. But they do a coup, the successor goes in. Hell can break loose. People can be murdered. People get round up. A lot more. Something like it happened with Rwanda. In Turkey, too, with the Armenians. Hitler seizing the firearms from the Jews. In Germany. And so forth. So you always got to look at the geopolitically. You always have to examine the bigger picture. And that's how I learned. I learned about this way back. And I'm no expert, okay? I've taken the time to read, see more clarification. Now I see all these you folks out there should go out to the CIA.gov, look at the reading room, and you'd be surprised how many classified information is out there. And you're like, damn, can this happen again? Can history repeat itself? And that's why I say no to invasion or U.S. intervention. The people in that nation have to rise up themselves. And of course, they've been hijacked by the central banksters since 1939. Nothing new. I know I talked about that in my past episode, so check it out. So you gotta put my hopes and prayers and blessings to everyone in that area, because I don't want to see any more blood. I don't want to see any huge bloodshed in the hands of foreign intervention, tax dollars. Remember, folks, every war, major war, is a bankster's war. We have to see that. If not, we could all be duped and swindled. All right. Enough of that. I'm in my camper, so I don't really have any Wi-Fi. However, download some stuff. Well, I'm going to post it on my Facebook page, my Spreaker page. So we'll start off here. Came from investmentwatchblog.com. Right, that's from the original. Is this the original? Let's find out here. No. This one here is entitled The Hashtag Resistance. All those people that hate Trump, join the resistance! Yeah, I call it the synthetic movement. The resistance are the new neocons. It is by Daniel Carter. As it reads here, the U.S. propaganda machine, also known as mainstream media, garbage media to be exact, has been incredibly successful at shaping the thoughts and behavior of the U.S. public. Just think about it. Every war the ruling elites have wanted, they have gotten. The elites largely gotten the U.S. public to forget about the egregious crimes of the financial institutions as well. They have even been able to maintain a respect for the intelligence community despite all the evidence of crimes and deceit. The media is an incredibly powerful tool, and the elites have used it well. You could think Edward Bernays in his book Propaganda, which came out 91 years ago, 1928. For decades, the elites were able to get most of their objective accomplished through one political group, the neocons. The neocons were persuaded by feelings of national pride, American exceptionalism, democracy, and a whole bunch of other ultimately foul platitudes. The elites convinced the neocons that the American authority could do no wrong. They convinced the neocons to go along with the expansive invasion of the Middle East and its surveillance state at home. God bless the Patriot Act, right? But the neoconservatism that sustained the mission of the ruling class for decades has finally begun to wither. For example, by 2013, more Americans said the Afghanistan war was a failure than the number of Americans who said it was a success for the first time since the war started. And there's a nice little graph you can see for yourselves based on party and succeed and fail and all that. Very interesting. That's from the Pew Research Center. Although more Republicans currently support the war than Democrats, support for both sides has dropped considerably since 2011. And I suspect that many Republicans support the war just because their guys in office. Just as the Democrats support the war more than their guys in office. That's right. Feel the hype, my friends. Exceptional, right? Absolutely. You know how these clowns are. But the point is, the lack of support from both sides is calling into question the legitimacy of the elite's war. With the Republicans turning to nationalism and Trump over globalism, the support from their side is likely to remain limited. But with the rise of the globalist pro-war left, the elites have found a new party that will carry out their objectives. In fact, the transition is already underway. It's the resistance, not the conservatives who love mainstream media, the intel community, the military-industrial complex, and whoever else the ruling elites tell them to like. But don't take my word for it. Look at the messages spewed out of the mouths of the resistance leaders. Brian Karstein. Boom! The Republican Senate has broken with Trump in massive fashion, voting 68-23 against a quick Syria and Afghanistan troop withdrawal. Trump loses again. And here he is again, or Ed Karstein. Yeah, like the bend over Bob's here, it looks like. The Republican led just 68-23 to advance a measure that opposes Trump's attempt to withdraw troops from Afghanistan and Syria. Another loss for Trump, another win for America. Yeah, these guys are a bunch of clowns. And here's what Bette Miller has to say. You know, I forgot. Hashtag Vladimir Putin. He's probably doing the happy dance right now. Trump pleases two dictators with one move, bringing home American citizens from Syria and thereby abandoning Syria to the Russians and the Kurds to the Turks. Mind control candidate for sure. Joy Hare from The View, that's her role model. Because they both, she wants to look exactly like her in the past. You know what she says here? Looks like withdrawal from the Syria is the price Trump is willing to pay to get Turks off MSG's back. Oops. There go the Turks, an old ally of ours whom the Turks fear, really fear. And he had a link on the New York Times. Chelsea Handler. What's happening in Syria is an abomination. We're allowing Russia and Iran to aid other Hitler. We cannot stand by and watch these people being murdered. We cannot. I donate Karma Foundation, but we have to do more. Chelsea, I have a question. Will you go on the front line of battle and see how tough you are? You know what? I may just respond that with her. Yeah, that's a very good question. I'll do it later for sure. I can see how tough this woman is because she's nothing more than a twit. So, you know what? Screw that. This is what I'm going to do. Give her the middle finger. That's all I gotta say. Cool. I just gave the middle finger. What the hell? And I do say to Bette Midler too. Look at all these clowns. They all want to talk big because they're all role models. And you know what? It's weak and pathetic. And it's funny because they have not a whole lot of likes on this. So you know what? I'll give her the big middle finger too. Yeah, why not? Beep. If I get barred from there, who cares? That's how I look at it. All these clowns and all these fools. So, you know what? I'll get the other ones later. Why not? I'll probably have Peter Griffin sit in the toilet. Alright, as it says here, this is only a small taste of the less newfound love of foreign conflict. Is this really and this is really only the beginning. The resistance has completely abandoned the anti-war sentiments of old liberals for a more hawkish stance towards the American adversaries. Like the old neoconservatives, it's strange how political preferences can change so dramatically in such a short amount of time. But here we are. This is just goes to show how easily people are manipulated by the powers that be. Yeah. No arguments here, my friends. Typical her-conformed rhetoric. Non-resisting enough. And it's funny because the same clowns think that Hillary Clinton was a great president. So all these folks that went in should go on the front line of battle. That's how I look at it. All talk, no action. So what do you folks think? I know a lot of you out there will say, yeah, may be a crazy SOB, but I don't make stuff up, right? Absolutely. So I'm going to definitely take care of that. And speaking of that, let's just hear, well, Donald Trump. We can relate to this. Personal liberty. And it says here, Trump gets pushback on Syria, but U.S. is already marginal there. As Donald Trump prepares to defend his Syria troop pullout in Tuesday's State of the Union address, fellow Republicans are pushing back hard. Islamic extremism in that war-torn country is nowhere near as extinct as the president claims. There's plenty of evidence that the critics are right about that, but it doesn't necessarily translate into a case for staying in Syria, because U.S. troops aren't even marginally involved in the fight against the biggest remaining jihad force there, which is Al-Qaeda, not ISIS. With the military might of America, Russia and Iran range against it, plus a host of their local allies. Islamic State never stood much chance of holding on the swathe of Syria and Iraq it seized a few years ago, and it hasn't. It's essentially been wiped off the map, although thousands of its fighters remained at large and dangerous. Trump said in a CBS TV interview on Sunday that the self-proclaimed caliphate has been stripped of 99% of its territory on his watch and soon will be at 100. After 8 years of the civil war, the biggest chunk of the jihadi-held territory in Syria now belongs to Al-Qaeda, America's original enemy in the global war on terror. Almost 2 decades after the September 11th attacks, the group's Syrian affiliate has been on the march, seizing Idlib province in a dramatic advance last month. Its military strength is estimated to be in the tens of thousands, perhaps the largest concentration of armed jihadists ever assembled in one place. ISIS boogeyman. But the U.S. military isn't fighting it and isn't likely to, even if Trump were to abandon his plan to withdraw. That's because Russia and Iran called the shots in northwest Syria. and right now they are not fully engaged against Al-Qaeda either, having abandoned a planned assault in September at the insistence of their ally Turkey. The jihadi problem in Syria hasn't gone away, said Aim Kamal of Eurasia Group. Swimming up a complex situation is just that. For all sound and the fury in Washington, the U.S. isn't a major player in this dynamic anymore. ISIS is practically defeated, whether the U.S. has troops on the ground or not, said Kamal. Al-Qaeda in Syria is much more problematic. Now, he said, though Islamic State still dominates most discussions because it's a boogeyman everyone can use. The strength of Al-Qaeda and the remaining threat of ISIS, with or without its physical footprint, is one reason why of Trump's closest congressional allies split from him on Syria. In a rare rebuke, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said the jihadists weren't defeated yet and that the American national security's interest requires continued commitment. Destroyed 100%. The Republican-controlled Senate last week an amendment arguing the U.S. has sustained the fight against Islamic militants, which is the official reason why American troops are in Syria. There's an official reason, too. Iran. Iranian fighters, along with Russian air power, helped Syrian President Bashar al-Assad win the civil war against Western-backed rebels and jihadists, right up until Trump's surprise tweet in late December saying he wanted to withdraw from Syria. U.S. officials were citing the need to counter Iran as a justification for a continued presence. Israel would like the U.S. to stay too, and for the same reason, but this may be one issue on which Trump, who campaigned on a promise to get out of the intractable Middle East conflicts, diverges from America's longtime ally. Trump is expected to declare something like mission accomplished in Tuesday's State of Union address, repeating his views we will soon have destroyed 100% of the caliphate, and signaling their U.S. forces may continue launching strikes as they pull out. Still commands thousands. The president chooses to emphasize the collapse of ISIS as a territorial entity. His intelligence services are taking a different tack, flagging the danger of a more dispersed Islamic State network in last week's worldwide threat assessment. The report said that ISIS still commands thousands of fighters in Iraq and Syria and maintains branches and supporters elsewhere. Trump, who described the Syrian conflict last month as sand and death, says U.S. troops underground aren't the most effective way to counter those holdouts. You're going to always have pockets, the president said in a CBS interview broadcast Sunday, but that's not a reason to keep armies there. He said the U.S. can also strike ISIS across the border in Iraq as its withdrawal from Syria. Analysts said wider threat of jihadism probably can't be defeated by military boots on the ground. Rather, the boots are Americans, Russia, or any kind. The conditions that led to the rise of radical Islamist groups in the Middle East haven't gone away. The region has the world's worst record of economic growth in recent years with soaring youth unemployment. On the top of that, wars in Iraq, Syria, Libya, and Yemen have spread death, destruction, and social breakdown. Only gotten worse. The conditions that enable the radicalization of youth in Muslim countries have only gotten worse, says Cameron Bokhari, a foreign policy specialist in the University of Ottawa's Professional Development Institute. And militants who fought in Syria or Iraq have shown the capacity to go underground and then resurface elsewhere. The Islamic fighters have showed up in Afghanistan, Libya, and the Sahel region, along the southern end of the Sahara Desert. Paul Sullivan, a Middle East expert at Georgetown University Center for Security Studies, lists some other places: Egypt, Tunisia, Central Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, and more. He says the battle-hardened and bitter terrorists could be a source of instability and violence for some time. This is Glenn Carey from Bloomberg News, and you have to agree with him on a lot of those areas. And I do support President Trump to withdraw the troops. And I'll say this, folks. I'm going to have to look this up on how voted for this. If Rubio and Scott voted to have them stay in, you know what? I will call those individuals out without any hesitance or remorse. This is why, another example about foreign entanglements, imperialism, empires. Very treacherous indeed. Learn from the past, my friends, because it's today's greatest teacher. So don't buy the garbage, the propaganda, mind control. Examine, observe, and think for yourselves. Say yes to the republic and no to an empire. All right. Now this is one more thing here. Yeah, I was going to just keep it easy here today. About the Proud Boys. Proud Boys founder Gavin McInnes sues Southern Poverty Law Center over hate group designation. It is by Colin Combacher. As it reads here, Proud Boys founder Gavin McInnes filed a lawsuit in federal court on Monday against the Southern Poverty Law Center, SPLC, alleging that the civil rights advocacy organization had improperly labeled his work hate speech, which has resulted in various forms of economic harm. The lawsuit also contests the Proud Boys designation as a hate group. McInnes is a Canadian national who currently lives in the posh environs of Larchmont, a wealthy suburb of New York City. In a 61-page lawsuit obtained by Law and Crime, the Vice Media co-founder says that the Southern SPLC has been defaming him by use of the SPLC hate designations and publishing of other false, damaging, and defamatory statements about him. Lawsuit continues. SPLC's defamatory, false, and misleading designation of Mr. McInnes as a hate figure is purposefully deceitful and intended to tarnish McInnes' reputation, disparages McInnes' good time and work, inflict harm and financial damage, reduce Mr. McInnes' goodwill and standing in the community, expose Mr. McInnes, his family, and anyone else associated with him to public scorn, harassment, intimidation, and potential violence, and to degenerate, malign, and ridicule Mr. McInnes to countless individuals and potential employers and partners around the world. In August 2017, titled Hard Times Coming Through, Gavin McInnes and the Charlottesville Racism War. The SPLC described McInnes and the Proud Boys as some of the leading purveyors of racist violence in the United States. That the SPLC piece began with McInnes' quote, which is a controversial talk show host, says, "Overall, I cannot recommend violence enough. It's really effective way to solve problems." The article noted, McInnes had done much to perpetuate both the motivating eminence and vile capacity of political violence since President Trump's election, including publishing videos on rebel media, such as fighting anti-fascists is fun. Violence is even being built into the structure of the Proud Boys hierarchy. The highest level membership in McInnes' organization, called the Fourth Degree, can only be achieved once a member has engaged in violence with anti-fascists. McInnes' lawsuit disputes the idea that he supports any form of discrimination. McInnes, an immigrant, is a avowed and vocal opponent of discrimination based on race, religion, or sexual preference, and of ideology and movements espousing extremism, nationalism, and white supremacy, the lawsuit says on page 2. The filing also takes issues with various claims by the SPLC and the media, such as New York Times, that the Proud Boys founder himself preaches violence. Far from threatening violence as suggested by SPLC's Change the Terms website, Mr. McInnes was once victimized by threats of violence and attempts at intimidation because of his nonviolent pro-free speech activism, the suit alleges on page 28. Additionally, the lawsuit goes out of its way to fend off the hate group designation of the Proud Boys, instead of describing the Western chauvinist organization as a social group for young men of all races and ethnic backgrounds looking for a companionship, the opportunity to develop character in a way to reinforce each other's self-respect as young men. Several members of the group are currently facing multiple charges over the attacks against passerby on Manhattan's Upper East Side on October 12, 2018. Dozens of the Proud Boys were filmed beating and punching at least 3 individuals. In late October of last year, Maxwell Hare, a 26-year-old member of the Proud Boys, was arraigned on a felony gang assault charges over allegations that he threw the first punch at a group of anti-fascist and anti-racist protesters. In a statement emailed to Law and Crime, SPLC President Richard Cohen rubbished the McInnes lawsuit. To paraphrase FDR, judge us by the enemies we've made. Gavin McInnes has a history of making inflammatory statements about Muslims, women, and the transgender community. The fact that he's upset with SPLC tells us that we're doing our job exposing hate and extremism. His case and meritless. McInnes is suing the Story Civil Rights Group for tortious interference with economic advantage, defamation, false light, invasion of privacy, and aiding and abetting employment discrimination under New York labor law. The lawsuit notes that McInnes and the Proud Boys lost access to PayPal, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, and lays the blame at the SPLC's feet. Filed in Alabama Middle District Court, McInnes' lawsuit alleges damages in excess of $75,000, including interest, costs, and attorney fees. The lawsuit also seeks several forms of injunctive relief against the SPLC, which would require the organization to retract their prior statements and publications about McInnes' ties to hate groups, as well as issue a public apology. Please join me in the fight of my life. A statement from McInnes reads, I want to help you take back this country. Read the petition below, and you can read it for yourselves. It's very interesting there. So, definitely, folks, I gotta say this, because I seen that video. Okay? I seen the video on here. And David Icke actually put it on his Twitter page. And he said, in the way it looked, the Proud Boys didn't do anything wrong. Alright? And be very frank, it's like, they're Trump supporters, this and that. But there are claims from some members that I chat with. They said that wasn't their first pick. Okay, so, but they also, but they're lining up with Trump, and you know what? That's like total nonsense. And the Southern Poverty Law Center has a reputation of defaming people. They even put folks like Chris Ann Hall. You can look it up, Chris Ann Hall show. Chris Ann Hall is considered a threat, a terrorist, an extremist. Say that We Are Change. You can say Alex Jones, Larry Pratt, Gunners of America, Ron Paul. I was never impressed with Morris Dees or Mr. Cohen. To me, they're nothing more than corrupt saps. Even the FBI, I believe, they stopped using them too because their credibility is going down the toilet. Right now, they're grasping straws at Southern Poverty Law Center. And they get money by big hotshots out there, including George Soros from the Open Source Foundation. Just to give you guys a heads up. I was never a fan of the Southern Poverty Law Center. They made a nice little movie about it, how it started. But thereafter, when I was hearing the rhetoric, even from the 1990s, I was not pleased at all. Because you know why? When you question, examine, when they witch hunt, they're the enemy. They're just an example. And this is why the Southern Poverty Law Center is nothing more than a monumental deception. Prove me wrong if you dare. And that is it, my friends. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share this throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you said something that's interesting you want to check out, whatever you do, please address the correspondence with decorum. I will leave all my footnotes about this, plus my social media contacts and email addresses on my Spreaker page. All right. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.